The kiss didn't even get a chance to become a kiss. 3 seconds. Maybe less. Long enough to shut up the table behind me. Long enough to turn my friend's "do it" chant into a mistake with teeth. My name is Lana Pierce, and I kissed a stranger on a dare in a crowded bar. And the stranger didn't laugh. If you want the rest of this story, subscribe, because the next message hit before my hangover even wore off. I pulled back with a grin already loaded, ready to spin on my heel and toss my hair like I'd just won a stupid game. But the man in front of me didn't move. He didn't blink. He didn't flinch. He didn't do that normal thing men do when a random woman kisses them. Smile, react, lean in, make it playful. He just stood there like the world had paused and he was deciding what to do with it. The neon behind the bar framed him in a hard blue glow, but it didn't soften his face. It carved it sharper. Tall, broad shoulders that made the bartender's shelves look too small. A dark shirt fitted across a chest that didn't look gym-made, more like work-made. His forearms rested near his drink, heavy and still, veins faint under the skin when he shifted his grip. My smile slipped without permission. "You okay?" I asked. Too bright, too quick, like I could erase the last 3 seconds if I sounded casual enough. His eyes lowered to mine, gray, flat, focused in a way that wasn't flirting. They didn't roam, they didn't warm. They locked on like he was reading a language he didn't trust yet. "You did that on a dare," he said. Not a question. I swallowed, suddenly aware of how close I'd stepped. Yeah, stupid game. The bar kept living around us. Bass thumped. Someone shouted at a bartender. A couple squeezed past, laughing too hard. A glass dropped somewhere and exploded into a quick chorus of, "Whoa, sorry, my bad." None of it touched him. He placed one hand on the counter beside me, still not touching me, but the space narrowed anyway, like his presence had edges. "You shouldn't let people push you into things," he said. Calm voice, no heat, worse than anger. I lifted my chin because the only thing worse than feeling reckless was feeling small. I wanted to. For the first time, something changed in his face. Not a smile. Interest. He studied me for a long beat, then stepped back like he'd never boxed me in at all. Like he'd only been leaning on the counter, like the air hadn't tightened. "Be careful," he said. That was it. No name, no number, no warning dressed like a joke. Just, be careful. I didn't wait to see if he'd say more. I turned fast, walking back to my booth like my legs hadn't gone light. Jessa and Priya were vibrating, eyes huge, drinks raised like they'd just watched a championship play. "Oh my God," Jessa hissed. "He looked like he wanted to file you as evidence," Priya whispered, delighted. "Shut up," I muttered, sliding in. My heart thumped too loud for a bar this noisy. "You did it," Jessa slapped the table. "You're insane." I forced a laugh and grabbed my water like I'd planned every second. It was nothing, but I felt it. I felt the way his gaze stayed on me even after I sat down. Not hungry, not playful, fixed. Like I'd stepped into a room I wasn't supposed to enter and he was deciding whether to close the door behind me. An hour earlier, the night had been harmless. We'd picked the copper lantern because it was loud enough to swallow stress, warm enough to pretend winter didn't exist. Every booth packed, every table shoulder to shoulder, everybody acting like tomorrow could wait. My week had been the kind that made you want noise. Emails, vendors, a bride who changed her entire color palette 2 days before a tasting, and then cried because the napkin rings didn't feel like her spirit. So when Jessa lifted her drink and said, "To surviving another month," I didn't argue. We clinked glasses. We laughed. I let the warmth spread. Then Priya leaned in, eyes bright with trouble. "Truth or dare?" "No," I said immediately. "Absolutely not." "Dare," Jessa said, because Jessa never respected a boundary if it was funny. Priya grinned. "You always say dare." I hesitated long enough for them to smell weakness. "Fine," I sighed. "Dare." Jessa didn't even pretend to think. Her gaze flicked past my shoulder toward the bar. "Kiss the most serious man in here." I followed her eyes. He was alone, not watching the game, not scrolling, not smiling at anybody. Just there, straight-backed, still. Like the chaos couldn't reach him unless he allowed it. He didn't look like he belonged in the copper lantern. He looked like the reason certain people behaved when he entered a room. "He looks like he'll throw me into traffic," I muttered. "Exactly," Priya said, thrilled. "That's why it's good." I laughed because if I didn't laugh, I'd admit I didn't want to do it. So I finished my drink. One long pull. The warmth hit my chest like permission. "It's just a kiss," I said, more to myself than them. I slid out of the booth and walked toward the bar like I was braver than I felt. Up close, he was taller than I expected. I had to tilt my chin to meet his eyes. His jaw was clean and sharp, hair cut neat. No jewelry, no show. The kind of man who didn't need decoration to look dangerous. I didn't give myself time to change my mind. I leaned in and kissed him. Light contact, quick, almost innocent. And yet the second it happened, the air changed. Not sparks, gravity. Like everything shifted half an inch and now the world sat wrong on its axis. I pulled back first, breath catching. "Sorry," I said automatically. "Dare." He didn't react. He just watched me. And that was somehow worse than anger. I backed away, turned, and walked back to my friends with a laugh that sounded too sharp in my own ears. Behind me, the man at the bar didn't look away. I felt him like pressure. I tried to ignore it. I danced. I drank water. I listened to Priya roast a guy at the next table. I pretended the night was still mine, but every time I glanced toward the bar, I found him, not staring like a creep, watching like a decision. Near the end of the night, I went to the bathroom, mostly to breathe. On my way back, I felt it again. Presence behind me, close, but controlled. "Are you okay?" a low voice asked. I spun, startled. He was there, close enough that I caught something clean on him. Soap, maybe, not cologne. Like he didn't need to mask anything. "I'm fine," I lied. His gaze flicked to my booth. "Your friends look like trouble." I snorted. "They are." A pause. He held out a hand. "Matteo." I hesitated. Then I took it. His grip was firm but careful, warm, the kind of grip that could hurt if it wanted to, but didn't. "Lana," I said. He repeated it once, quietly, like he was saving it. "Lana." My phone buzzed. "Jessa." "We're leaving. Now." I exhaled. "I should go." He stepped back immediately. No argument, no chase. "Of course," he said. I took 2 steps, then stopped, turned back because my mouth moved before my brain could stop it. "Sorry again," I said. "For what?" he asked. "For kissing you." His expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened. It wasn't a mistake. My breath caught like he'd touched me. Then I turned and walked away before I could do something even dumber, like ask his last name. The next morning, I woke up and immediately regretted having lips. Not because the kiss had been bad, because it had been too easy to remember. My head pounded. My mouth tasted like lime and regret. I stared at my ceiling and tried to stack the night in order. Girls' night, the dare, the bar, his eyes. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. 3 texts from Jessa. "I have proof. You were iconic. Open the video." I groaned. "No." I opened it anyway. The clip was shaky and loud. My own laugh sounded like a stranger's. I watched myself walk to the bar with a confidence I did not deserve. Then I kissed him. I pulled back, smiling like it meant nothing. He didn't smile. He didn't even blink. He just watched me like my face belonged somewhere permanent. I paused the video on his expression and stared. Handsome. Controlled. Not friendly. The kind of man strangers don't tease without consequence. So why hadn't he pushed me away? Why had he looked interested? I threw my phone onto the bed like that would erase the footage and went to shower. The water didn't help. At Ren and Slade events, the office smelled like espresso, and the overpriced candle the receptionist swore boosted productivity. I walked in with my tote and laptop and tried to look like a woman who didn't make drunk dares into life choices. I made it 4 steps. Jessa appeared at my desk with a grin sharp enough to cut glass. "Good morning, kissing criminal." "Don't," I warned. "Oh, I'm absolutely doing it," she said. "All day." Priya popped up from behind the divider like she'd been waiting in ambush. "I found him." My stomach flipped. "Found who?" She lifted her phone. On the screen, a grainy photo of him outside a building downtown. Dark coat, clean lines. 2 men nearby in suits watching the street like it was their job. "That looks like security," I said before I could stop myself. Jessa leaned in. "That looks like money." Priya zoomed into a comment thread. "Look, someone tagged him. Mr. Morelli." My throat tightened. Morelli. Priya nodded, thrilled with herself. "Matteo Morelli. I found him on a charity donor list. He gave a lot." Jessa's eyes lit up like fireworks. "So you kissed a rich, scary man with professional watchers." "I kissed a stranger," I corrected. Jessa pointed at my face. "You're blushing." "I am not." Priya smirked. "You are. It's fine. You're the main character now. I turned to my computer like spreadsheets could save me. They didn't. 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Unknown number, one message, Lana Pierce. My heartbeat jumped so hard it climbed into my throat. Jessa's grin vanished. Priya's mouth fell open. Answer, Priya mouthed. I stared at the screen like it could lunge. I typed anyway. Who is this? A pause. Then the reply came. Matteo. And my whole day tilted. I didn't sleep. I locked my door like Matteo told me to. Then I stood there with my hand still on the knob, listening to the quiet of my apartment like it might confess something. Nothing happened. No footsteps, no knock, no shadows under the hallway light, just my own pulse in my ears, and the memory of his voice. My home. 7-9. The next day dragged. I worked on autopilot. Venue walkthroughs, vendor calls, a client insisting her reception needed more moonlight energy while refusing to schedule anything after 4 p.m. I nodded. I took notes. I smiled at the right moments. My brain stayed somewhere else. Priya noticed first. You're quiet. Am I? Yes, Jessa added, leaning across my desk. Quiet like someone about to make a very interesting choice. I'm aware, I corrected. Jessa nodded. That's different. Priya smirked. That's worse. At 6:45, I was in front of my mirror, not trying to look seductive, trying to look like me. Soft sweater, dark jeans, clean boots, something I could breathe in. At 6:52, my phone buzzed. Downstairs, not outside, not I didn't sleep. I locked my door like Matteo told me to. Then I stood there with my hand still on the knob, listening to the quiet of my apartment like it might confess something. Nothing happened. No footsteps, no knock, no shadows under the hallway light. Just my own pulse in my ears and the memory of his voice. My home. 7-11. The next day dragged. I worked on autopilot. Venue walkthroughs, vendor calls, a client insisting her reception needed more moonlight energy while refusing to schedule anything after 4 p.m. I nodded. I took notes. I smiled at the right moments. My brain stayed somewhere else. Priya noticed first. You're quiet. Am I? Yes, Jessa added, leaning across my desk. Quiet like someone about to make a very interesting choice. I'm aware, I corrected. Jessa nodded. That's different. Priya smirked. That's worse. At 6:45, I was in front of my mirror, not trying to look seductive, trying to look like me. Soft sweater, dark jeans, clean boots, something I could breathe in. At 6:52, my phone buzzed. Downstairs, not outside, not honking. Downstairs. I took one last breath, grabbed my coat, and went down. Matteo stood beside a plain black SUV at the curb. No driver, no show. Hands in his pockets, posture relaxed but alert. He looked different tonight. No suit, dark sweater, sleeves pushed up, watch catching the streetlight. His face stayed controlled until his eyes found me. Lana, he said. Matteo. He opened my door, waited until I was in, then closed it gently. He walked around and got into the driver's seat. He was driving himself. That should have made him feel normal. It didn't. We drove out of my neighborhood and into quieter streets. The city shifted. Less noise, wider lanes, trees without leaves scraping the sky. Where are we going? I asked. He kept his eyes on the road. Gold Coast. Chicago's version of quiet, I murmured. His mouth twitched. Yes. The building he pulled up to wasn't a glass tower with guards. It was a renovated brownstone with warm light behind tall windows. Subtle, solid, like it had been there longer than trends. He parked, turned off the engine, and looked at me before he got out. You can still change your mind. I met his gaze. I know. He nodded once, then stepped out and opened my door. Inside, the space felt lived in. Not sterile, not cold. Clean lines, neutral colors, art that looked chosen. No flashy symbols of status, just quiet, order. A kind of calm that felt intentional, not empty. This isn't what I expected, I admitted. What did you expect? I shrugged. Something darker. His mouth curved faintly. I spend enough time in dark places outside of here. That sentence landed heavier than it sounded. He poured water, handed me a glass, then leaned against the counter like he was giving me room to decide again. I took a sip, set the glass down carefully. Okay, I said, exhaling. You said you'd tell me the truth. He nodded. I did. My heartbeat climbed. So tell me. Matteo didn't rush. He crossed the room, sat across from me, elbows resting loosely on his knees. He looked at me like he was measuring honesty, not control. My life isn't legal in the way most people want it to be. he said. I held my breath. I run organizations that exist in the gray, he continued. Some are legitimate, some are not. My stomach tightened. You're a criminal. His eyes stayed steady. I'm a businessman who grew up where the rules were different. That's still a yes. He nodded once. Yes. I leaned back slightly, processing. And the men in the car? People who work for me, he said. People who keep problems away from my door. And violence? I asked, because pretending it didn't exist felt stupid. Mateo didn't dodge. I avoid it when I can. I don't enjoy it. I don't bring it home. I searched his face for excuses. I found none. And me? I asked softly. Where do I fit in that? His expression shifted, almost careful. You don't. That surprised me more than any confession. You don't want me to? I asked. No, he said firmly. I want you far from it. My voice wavered. Then why involve me at all? He exhaled slowly. Because I noticed you. And once I did, pretending I didn't would have been dishonest. The honesty hurt in a strange way, like the truth was heavy because it didn't come wrapped in charm. So this is a mistake, I said quietly. He shook his head. It's a risk. I met his gaze. There's a difference? Yes, he said, and I'm willing to take it, only if you are. I stood and walked to the window, staring at the quiet street below. Normal cars passing, a dog walker, a couple laughing like nothing in the world could reach them. This is a lot, I said. I know. I turned back. Why me, Mateo? He rose slowly, stopping a few feet away, not crowding, not claiming. Because you didn't want anything from me, he said. Because you looked at me like I wasn't only what I do. My throat tightened. And because, he added, voice lower, you kissed me without trying to take anything. I swallowed hard. That was a dare. He didn't argue. He just watched me until I felt the lie in my own mouth. Silence stretched between us. Then I laughed softly. More breath than sound. You're not exactly the safe choice. His mouth curved faintly. No, you don't act like someone who takes what he wants, I said, because it was true. You could. You don't. I don't, he agreed. I choose. My heart hammered. And you're choosing me? Yes. I stared at him, searching for the angle. There wasn't one. Just certainty. What happens if this goes badly? I asked. His gaze didn't waver. Then I walk away. That easily? I challenged. No, he said honestly, but I will. I nodded slowly, then stepped closer. Stopped just short of him. I need one promise. Name it. No lies, I said. If I ask, you answer. He didn't hesitate. Agreed. I stared at him one last time. Then I reached out and took his hand. His fingers tightened around mine, gentle but firm, like he understood what it cost me to do that. Okay, I whispered. His breath hitched, just slightly. Okay, I'll stay, I added. For now. He lifted my hand and pressed a slow kiss to my knuckles. The tenderness of it made my chest ache. May I kiss you? He asked. I nodded. This kiss was different, slower, deeper, not reckless, not performative, honest in a way that made my knees soften. His hand rested at my waist like an anchor. Mine flattened against his chest, feeling the steady strength under fabric. When we pulled apart, my forehead rested against his. This doesn't feel dangerous, I whispered. His voice was low. That's what worries me. I huffed a soft laugh. You're allowed to want something good. He didn't answer immediately. He held me a second longer than necessary, like he was memorizing proof. Then a phone buzzed somewhere in the apartment. Mateo stiffened. Not dramatically, just enough for me to feel it. Is that important? I asked. Yes, he said. And inconvenient. My pulse ticked up. Does it change anything? Not tonight, he said. But soon. Soon what? His gaze turned serious. Soon someone will notice I'm distracted. My stomach tightened. And when they do, they'll want to know why. My breath caught. And what will you tell them? His eyes darkened, steady and certain. That you matter. Not romantic. Protective. Weeks passed after that night, and nothing exploded the way my imagination predicted. Mateo didn't flood my phone. He didn't show up unannounced. He didn't demand space in my life. He offered it. One message in the morning, one at night. Sometimes only a sentence. Did you eat? What made you laugh today? Are you tired? Attention without performance. It was unnerving. Jessa noticed, of course. You're smiling at your phone. I'm not. Priya rolled her eyes. You absolutely are. And it's not your mother. It's Mateo, I admitted. Both of them froze like I'd said a name they recognized from a headline. Jessa's grin spread slowly. Oh, this is serious. How do you know? Because when you talk about him, you don't joke, she said. You soften. I didn't argue. That scared me. Our next dinner wasn't at a restaurant. It was at his place again. He cooked. Simple food. No staff. No show. Sleeves rolled, moving with quiet efficiency like cooking was how he kept his hands from doing other things. You cook? I asked, watching him chop vegetables with precise calm. Yes, he said. It keeps my hands busy. And your mind? He glanced at me. Sometimes. We ate at the kitchen counter, close but not touching, talking about normal things. My clients, a vendor disaster, Priya getting lost for 3 hours because she trusted vibes over GPS. Matteo listened like every detail mattered. At one point, his phone buzzed face down on the counter. He didn't pick it up. It's fine, I said. You don't have to ignore it because of me. His eyes held mine. I want to. That sentence settled deep. Later, we sat on his couch. This time, our shoulders brushed. Heat, steady and grounding. I turned my head slightly. Can I ask you something? Yes. What happens when people in your world get attached? I asked carefully. He exhaled slowly. They become vulnerable. And you? I asked. He looked at me. I don't get attached. The honesty stung. Until he added softer. Until now. My breath caught. This is new for me, he said. I don't pretend it isn't. Does it scare you? Yes, he answered immediately. That answer made me trust him more than any reassurance could. I shifted closer and rested my hand lightly on his forearm. He went still for half a second, then relaxed into it like he'd been given permission. I don't want to be a weakness, I said quietly. His gaze sharpened with conviction. You're not. Then what am I? His eyes locked on mine. A reason. A reason for what? I whispered. For change. A buzz again. Face down. He ignored it. Then he leaned back slightly and said the next sentence like it had been waiting behind his teeth. Tomorrow, I have a meeting. With who? He paused. Then, my family. My stomach dropped, not from fear of the word, because I heard what it meant. A room with rules I didn't know. People who expected the old version of him. Matteo's gaze held mine. I needed you close tonight because after tomorrow, I may have to prove what you are to me. My throat went dry. Prove? I may have to say your name out loud in a room where people don't get to know you, he said. And once I do, they'll know you exist. My heartbeat thundered. His grip tightened slightly, gentle but firm. I won't do it without your consent, he added. But I need to know if you're willing to step forward with me. The apartment suddenly felt too quiet for a question that big. Move in, be named, be real in his world. I stared at him, mind racing, and for the first time since that bar, I realized the kiss hadn't been the beginning. It had been the door, and I was standing in it.